Good evening, I'm Carl Wigglesworth, and this is Perspective. And our guest tonight is a person whose name I'm sure you know. And if you've never seen her before, you will know her face very well before this evening is over, because she is the only guest on the show tonight, Madalyn Murray O'Hare. And welcome to Perspective.
I'm very delighted to be here.
You are head of the American atheist movement in America?
That's right, I am, and of an international movement called the United World Atheists.
All right. Atheism and Madalyn Murray O'Hare are like salt and pepper. You never hear of one without the other in this country. It all began for you when? How did you get started in the movement or as a movement?
Well, actually, it was at the time that my oldest son came home and said that he was being required to listen to the Bible being read and to recite in unison the King James Version, the Protestant version of the Lord's Prayer in the public schools. And we went to the public schools in order to make a complaint to the Board of Education, to the principal, exhausting all of the administrative remedies of the school, and finally going into court because we did not like the determination that we had. And the determination, you might be interested in that, was, one, that my son would remain in the classroom, two, that he would assume a reverential position so that he would not offend the religious students in the room, three, he would move his lips as if he were saying the prayer, again, not to offend the people in the room. And at that point, we felt that better the prayer out than compulsion of that kind in.
This was in Baltimore?
In Baltimore, Maryland, yes. And it started in 1959.
In 1959?
That's right. And we were 4 years in the court process until we came to the United States Supreme Court. And the United States Supreme Court in 1963, June, as soon as school left out, because this was a political issue, ruled that prayer and Bible reading was an inherent religious ceremony, and as a religious ceremony was improperly in the public schools.
A lot of people who are not atheists support that finding of the court and support your movement at that time.
Yes,
not because
they do.
of atheism, just because they thought it was unfair to force children of different religions to all be part of one religion's experience.
Well, very, very few people know this, but there had been over 125 years of contention, which had actually erupted in shooting in Philadelphia, Cincinnati, and New York City over the Bible in the public schools. The Roman Catholic Church had filed the first 50, 60 suits in both federal courts and in state courts in order to remove Bible reading and prayer recitation, because this was the King James Protestant version that was in the schools, right, and they wanted to do a Roman Catholic version. The Jews, of course, were against any kind of prayer because they do not accept the New Testament. And in Baltimore, there had been continuous strife for something like 30 years with the extreme fundamentalists and the Jews together saying there should be nothing in schools, the Roman Catholics saying there should be Douay version, and the Protestants saying there should be the Protestant version.
Before starting the show this evening, someone was saying, well, the atheist movement has been around a lot longer than Madalyn Murray O'Hare. How did Madalyn Murray O'Hare become the person totally identified with the movement?
Well, I think it's because of, I get angry and say cowardice. We have had a free thought movement, and that's what the atheists describe themselves as in America since colonial times. And this originated in England and France and in Germany prior to the United States even being settled. So there is a long tradition of atheism in the European culture and in the American culture. But these people were so afraid of being openly identified as atheists that they took any other name. They called themselves secularists and rationalists, realists. Ayn Rand called her group, and she was an atheist, she called her group the objectivists. And they would say anything at all except atheists. And when I came along, I said, hey, let's be honest. I'm perfectly willing to tattoo the word atheist on my forehead because it's a good word, it's simplistic, and it tells everybody immediately where we stand. That is, we are free from theism. And that's all that the word means. We are free from religion.
All right, let me ask you that. I thought this is a good point to start this interview. What do you define, how do you define those two terms? Atheism, free from, you just said religion.
That's right, and that's all.
What is God? What
all.
is religion in your definition?
Well, we have to permit those persons who are religious to give us the definitions. And of course, there have been only officially about 7 different ideas concerned with what God could possibly be. And in relationship to the God idea, there are 13 aspects of theism. And that's a long, convoluted thing that would perhaps take a 2-hour program to go into about what God's attributes are and from whence they were derived and how. And what we're saying to everybody is, hey, none of you really believe in God either. Because you don't believe in Thor, and you don't believe in Zeus, and you don't believe in Quetzalcoatl. You have picked out a particular God. And all the atheists do is look at all of your gods as a generic class, find out what they have in common, what they don't have in common, how they came about in history, and how they died or were rejected. And of course, we're in a post-Christian era now. Right now, Christianity is being rejected all over the world. It still has roots in the United States, but we are the single nation that is the single most religious nation still in regard to Judeo-Christianity than any other nation in the world.
All right, now I don't know how you would measure those kind of things. Were you talking about church attendance, or are you talking about personal testimony from people? I don't know how you would measure people's beliefs.
It's a very difficult thing, and what we do is look at sociological studies which are done, and primarily these have been started at the University of California at Los Angeles. They have been perhaps the most objective in their analysis, but almost every religious organization, certainly the University of Chicago with Marty Martin in command, has done all kind of objective, he thinks, studies in relationship to religion, whether or not people have a belief system, what that belief system is, what the features of it are, because there are several things. Let me give you just one. There should be a personal God or an impersonal God. There should be a force outside of nature, or there should be a force which is nature itself. You can reach God through communication, or you cannot reach God through communication. There are all kind of criterions to set apart different belief sets, and then to examine those belief sets. And it's difficult. In Europe, they have done this objectively. They started in Germany in about 1820 to analyze religion, and I have never seen it analyzed like that in the United States. We're still very primitive. We're in kindergarten stage when it comes to an objective analysis of religion.
All right, now trying to do that, as you admitted, is very, very difficult. I'm not even sure it's at all possible. But let's switch this a little bit. The objects of any society's taking up of beliefs,
yes,
whether it be religion or atheism, is, I would assume, to make life experience for the people of that society better.
Well, one would think so in the United States, because our constitutional objective, or in the Declaration of Independence, was to try to achieve equality and try to achieve a different type of standard of living. However, I don't think that that is actually the object of any particular nation. The object of our nation is much more politicized right now than it is in any way.
Well, let me take it away from nations.
Religion.
I was referring more to the creations of mankind in the areas of belief systems.
Yes.
Classify this as atheism, as a religion, as a theme to live by, as morals, as ethics.
But you see, I'm much more cynical than you are, and I feel that almost every single time that standards have been set like this, the standards have been set in order to control the majority or the mass of persons, and that the control has been, particularly with religion, in respect to two things: fear and guilt, and both of those predicated on human sexuality and on death. So that if one can control the most basic drive of humankind, that is the sex drive, then you can control any human being if you can control the sex drive. And I think we've seen this demonstrated throughout history. For instance, in France and England, when Henry VIII absolutely kicked out the Roman Catholic Church and instituted the Church of England there, he did this with certain ideas in mind, and one of them was to seize the real estate of the Roman Catholic Church there, and he did. And then he formulated controls for persons to follow. The Methodist religion was deliberately to control the working class of England, and it was set up as a control religion for the English working class. So you see this all over, that there have been different concepts related to religion where there have been deliberate determinations as to what was wanted in order to mold the person.
All right, but now again, we're looking at it from a historical perspective, and there are many Methodists who are viewing the show who would strongly disagree that the purpose of the religion was to control the working class, that they would see it greatly
they
different.
Could, yes.
All right, but let's keep it, if we can, into modern or into current thought.
Surely.
Today, what does atheism do for the people of any society? What is the benefit?
Oh, I think that it's so obvious. One of the things that a person who is an atheist has, which I think that the religious persons do not have, is a sense of self-worth, a sense of independence, a sense of reliance upon themselves, and a release from the terrible anxieties that go with the burdens of sin and guilt which are laid upon them by religion. So what we offer all persons is, first, don't be afraid to die. There's no hell awaiting you. You can get rid of that idea. The thing now for you to do, if you are hopeful to become an atheist, is maximize your potential. Use your education. Have a feeling and an understanding that you are a worthwhile human being. And get rid of your ideas of dependency. Get rid of your ideas that something outside of yourself is structuring your life. Or that you need to pray for guidance and direction. You don't need to pray. You've got it within yourself to solve every one of your problems.
All right, now you're saying that is not religious, that is atheistic thought that you just expounded.
That is so atheistic.
But I know
incredible.
religions who would say virtually the same things, that with almost no
I know,
difference.
but then in the last analysis, they do expect for their life, the style of life that they have. Some sort of a reward or punishment in heaven or in hell. The atheists don't. You say, we can be decent individuals, we can be good parents, we can be good citizens without reference to a reward or punishment.
Let me ask you one. You said that they do. I think that there are religions such as Unity, for example, that doesn't preach that there is that ultimate punishment at the end of the line.
But every single one of those religions, including Unity, have something that we don't have. And that's feelings of personal inadequacy. And everybody who's listening to me right now, sometime today, in any kind of a situation that they've had, in a confrontation with their children, with their spouses, with their employers, they have had feelings of self-inadequacy, which the atheists finally don't have. Boy, am I free of this. I am so totally free of any kind of feelings of self-inadequacy that it's incredible.
All right. Now, again, religions like Baptist, Methodist, and Catholics in this day and age are also preaching and teaching that you do not have to be inadequate. In fact, it's better to have good self-image or concept, that it is good to feel confident in yourself.
But where does that self-image come from? That self-image comes from tailoring yourself after God ideas. And those God ideas are always found in a particular holy book, or derived from a reading of that, or derived from a set of authoritarian doctrines which go along with that church. For instance, you can't really tell me that there hasn't been an overwhelming battle within the Roman Catholic Church with the women over the use of the birth control pill and the use of abortion, because more Catholic women have abortion than any other group, and more Catholic women use the pill than any other group. And it is the Pope in the Roman Catholic Church right now which is causing so much difficulty worldwide over the use of the pill and the use of abortion.
All right.
So there's considerable contention.
So what is your point here? I'm not
sure.
The
point is that every Roman Catholic woman who has an abortion, every Roman Catholic woman who takes the pill has a tinge of guilt going with that, because they know they are defying the ultimate authority in their church, the Pope. They know that they are defying their cardinal, their bishop, their archbishop, and even their local priest, because there are very, very few priests who, when they go to the confessional each week, will say, "Oh yes, honey, that's all right. You have another abortion anytime." So there are constantly in the background concepts in relationship to what should your behavior be. Come on, tell me that a Roman Catholic can have sex out of marriage and not need to go to the confessional. It just isn't done. Even with a Baptist, a fundamentalist Baptist, supposing the minister is shacking up with his secretary.
But would that hold true for an atheist? Is that what you're saying, that an atheist can have sex outside of the marriage and feel no guilt about it?
But this has to do, though, it is based on something differently. An atheist who is having a personal relationship with another human being, which includes sex, has in that the personal integrity of the relationship back and forth. And this is what they would be violating. They would not
But that would
be
be the
violating.
same for the Catholic or for the Protestant or for
No,
the Jew.
because you see, we haven't gone before someone and said, this is a sacrament. And we are married not because of our attraction to one another and because of the relationship that we can associate with that, but rather we are married because this is a coercive thing in relationship to human sexuality. We cannot do it outside of the marriage.
Wait. Let me say, I think I must be misunderstanding.
No.
Are you saying that people get married in religious societies because the church coerces them into doing it?
A tremendous amount of, tremendous number of marriages are coercive in respect to this. Let me give you an example.
Please.
Supposing you tomorrow would find a woman your age and you absolutely thought that she was intellectual, physically beautiful, emotionally
she hung the
attached
moon,
to
as you say.
Absolutely.
All right, this is it.
And you and she decided that you would move into an apartment together. And you read books
Boy,
together.
is my wife going to be unhappy.
No, you read books together. You did everything together. You were both involved in video. Everything that you did was mutually compatible, and you loved it. The only thing that you're forbidden to do by state law and by religion is to fornicate. You can wash your clothes together. You can live together. You can even share the same bed together. You can have a career together. You can do everything.
But not sex.
But you cannot use sex. That's right. And if you do, you're going to be placed in a position of guilt either by your church or a position of illegality by your state. And this is what I'm talking about. So the
I don't understand what you're
motivation
talking about
is
here.
powerful.
Is the church? Where's the church's responsibility for me feeling guilty about doing this? I would feel guilty about doing it because I'm married to someone who I have a commitment with.
What if you weren't having any sexual relations with this woman?
Still, yes. If it was without my wife's knowledge, if I was doing this.
Well, with your wife's knowledge, then.
Well, now, if my wife agreed to it and it didn't violate the commitment of my wife, it wouldn't make any difference whether there was sex or not.
Yes, it does.
If she agreed.
That's the point of difference.
I don't think she's going to agree.
That's the point of difference. But what I'm trying to say is that the religion in our nation and in every nation has said in a continuing way that morality is based upon religious precepts, and they are the moral arbiters. As a matter of fact, I saw day before yesterday the Pope described in a news broadcast as one of the moral leaders in the world. And I don't feel that that's true. I think that the moral leaders in the world are those persons who engage in such ethical behavior that their lives should be emanated. And I don't feel that the Pope does. I think that he's a medievalist, that he has brought harm upon the whole world with his doctrines of going back to those medieval times. And I think that it's necessary for us to judge people with a different set of values.
Well, you know how to put yourself in the hot seat over and over. Let me try to pin you down a little bit, if I can, on a question I asked earlier. What good does atheism do for us? You said it frees us from guilt. Well, I can't see that it would totally free us from guilt. Like I said, I could be an atheist, and if I'm cheating on my wife, I'm probably going to feel guilty about it.
Well, I'm not quite certain that what you're talking about is the same thing as what I'm talking about.
Okay, well what does it do for us? Let me give you the other side. The established religions and governments that practice a religious background, as the United States government has, in God we trust, et cetera. They say, look what we do for people. We are charitable. We are humane. As a government, we even run welfare programs, which many Christians disagree with now. They say they've gone too far in entrapping people into a system and a lifestyle.
All right, but that's just exactly what I would like to point out to you. While the religious persons are saying that they are moral arbiters, I was around during the Great Depression, and I was around during the time that Franklin Delano Roosevelt first had to set criterion for social service agencies in the United States. Up until that time, by and large, they were run by the churches, and they were run so badly that they had to be taken from the church's hands. In 1936, when Frances Perkins was the first woman ever appointed to the Health, Education, and Welfare Department, which was established at that time simply because of the gross injustices of any kind of church-run institutions. But the thing is now, all of our institutions are secular. If you go up to Austin, Texas, there's a home for the blind run by the state. There's a home for the insane run by the state. If you go into any hospital here, even a religious institution, in this city here, the Hill Burton Fund, a secular tax fund established by the United States government, supports that religious hospital. And if you go in for marriage counseling to the Roman Catholic Church, your marriage counseling facilities in Austin, Texas are getting millions of dollars. In San Antonio, Texas, are getting millions of dollars from both state, county, and federal grants in order to run that welfare agency. And I think that all of those agencies that are eleemosynary, those agencies which give help, should be removed from the supervision of all churches every place and put in the hands of psychiatrists, psychologists, medical men, and technicians who know what they're doing. They shouldn't be run along religious lines. And to have them run along religious lines doesn't indicate that religion is moral. It only indicates that religion is snapping up tax money in order to try to use that tax money to make converts. And I say this knowingly because, for instance, at a time when a great deal of money was given, hundreds of millions of dollars to give to Head Start in order to start children into school before kindergarten age, the scandals that broke out about this, and the Methodist Church was involved, incidentally, they had the Head Start programs in the churches, and the churches tried to proselytize their particular religion to these preschool children. Mm-hmm. And parents came into the federal government and complained. In Philadelphia, there was such a war about it that it broke out into the newspapers with the Roman Catholic churches and the Protestant churches at one another's throats saying, "How dare you try to change the Protestants into Roman Catholics, and conversely, how dare you try to change the Roman Catholics into Protestants?"
Can I still get the answer to the question?
Sure.
I know you gave it in a roundabout way. Can you kind of summarize it for us? What does atheism do for a society then?
Atheism does for a society, it says to that society as a whole, stop irrational thinking. Start to base every single one of our problem-solving methods on absolute reason and a scientific method. Let's look at the problem that we have, analyze it, delimit it, define it from a secular viewpoint, see how it's going to go and what kind of a solution we should put onto it. Instead of, for instance, putting "pray for peace" on our letters as a postage cancellation. That didn't do a damn thing. When I hear churches going out and saying, "Let's pray for peace on Friday," or I see the Roman Catholics issuing a pastoral letter saying that in order to stop the nuclear escalation, what we should do is fast on Thursday afternoons, they're crazy. What they should do immediately, if we want peace, is every bishop minister in your city, every Presbyterian, every Methodist minister, every Roman Catholic priest, tell every single one in their churches that if they lift one finger toward helping the nuclear escalation, that this is a mortal sin, and they'll excommunicate them from the churches. And watch how fast peace will come. Peace is within our grasp tomorrow.
All right,
if the Pope would say it's a mortal crime to work on any nuclear devices.
Right. But that's only a one-sided peace.
It isn't a one-sided peace.
Sure
this has to do with the continuation of the human race. The atheists are saying it.
But then you are saying at the other side, in this case, Soviet Union is not a threat to be reckoned with. You're saying if we can lay down our arms, then it's not going to cause us any problem.
Stop a minute, because I think that this is important. We're talking, the Soviet Union says that they will have no first strike, haven't they?
Yes, they've said that.
We can't say that. We had our first strike. It was called Hiroshima. Mm-hmm. We had our second strike. It was called Nagasaki.
Right. But those were in response to other first strikes.
No, they weren't.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor.
No, Hiroshima and Nagasaki were the use of nuclear weapons. And we're the only nation that used nuclear weapons. We are the nation that escalated nuclear weapons, and we are the nation that used nuclear weapons in diplomatic relationships as threats. And I feel that we could have a unilateral nuclear disarmament tomorrow. And what is the Soviet Union going to do? Send over a battalion of troops to descend into San Antonio and start a street fight for possession?
Wouldn't have to do that if you had the only nuclear arsenal. But you always
have to move in ground troops in a war. That's the only way you can conquer a country, is to move in ground troops. I'm not afraid of the Soviet Union. I'm afraid of the United States.
Well, there are a lot of people who would obviously be on the other side of that fence. Let's take that Soviet Union example a little bit further.
Please.
It is a professed atheistic society.
Yes,
according to most Americans, it would be one of the most failed societies of all time.
No, that's not true, because although they have what they call complete separation of state and church in the Soviet Union, what that means is that the church gets absolutely no money from the government. It must self-support. And I would like to name 4 other nations where this is true. The nation of China has separation of state church and forces all churches to self-support. There are churches in Russia. They are functioning. I've been there and I've seen them, and this is reported constantly, even by people like Billy Graham. There are churches in China. We just come back from there, and we understand that there are. We talked to the head of the atheist
But I
group
said
there.
the government of these countries, and the Soviet Union in particular.
They are not. They are not a proclaimed atheistic country like, for instance, Israel is a proclaimed theocracy, or Egypt is a proclaimed theocracy. They say they have absolute separation of church and state. Another country that is atheistic is Japan. There are something like 90% atheists in Japan. It just absolutely floors the imagination. Now, where they are an official atheist country, and you must be atheist to stay there, and you are charged with a crime if you are religious, is the state of Albania. But that's the only nation in the world that is an absolute official atheist nation.
And again, not one of the outstanding countries that anybody would like to emulate.
Albania, I don't know. I'm trying desperately
Albania
to go
or
and have a
Russia
look.
or Red China, those are not attractive alternatives to people in the United States.
Attractive alternatives for what?
Alternatives to a Christian or a God-based society.
But I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is funny. Do you know that England has 3% church attendance?
But church attendance
That France
is not
has
the same as
7%
belief.
church attendance? Yes, it is.
No, it's
in a
not.
sense, because if you go to England, you go to France, you go to the Netherlands, you go to Germany. Religion is unimportant in any of those. People go to
Religion as established religion, but there are thousands of people watching this right now who they know that they don't go to church, but they still have a belief system.
That's
that
in
is,
the United States, but
Yes.
that is not the same thing. I started out earlier in the program saying that we're in a post-Christian nation. I mean, in a post-Christian era, and that post-Christian era is evidenced all over Europe. The single latest book that came out, for instance, from England, supported by the Archbishop who is in command, is that Jesus Christ was never even an historical figure.
Well, that's another discussion that
It is
deserves
indeed.
some more time. Madalyn Murray O'Hare, we're out of time for this issue of Perspective. I thank you for joining me tonight. If people want to get in contact, how do they do that?
Well, Post Office Box 2117 in Austin, Texas.
Austin.
And for those persons who use zip codes, it's 78768. But just write to Madalyn Murray O'Hare, American Atheist, and the post office knows me in Austin.
I'll bet you got the blood pressure of a lot of people up tonight.
Good.
I'm sure you have been stimulated.
Good.
Thank you for joining me.
That helps them to think.
Thank you, Madalyn Murray O'Hare.
You're welcome.
And we'll be back next week with more of Perspective. And